Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back, everybody. Going to make you think for a second. Have you ever felt the presence of something around you? Or maybe thought you saw something, but you're not really sure? Did you turn around to yourself and say, am I crazy? What's going on here? We are going to look at that a little deeper today. And that's through the eyes of somebody who is intuitive. You're not crazy. At least I don't think you are. We haven't talked yet. So let me evaluate. Actually, that's not my job. My job is to bring her in here. And she's provided so much insight when we've gotten together with her mediumship skills, her intuitiveness, but also she's a therapist. That's the game changer for me. Blends a lot of different worlds all together. She is Noelle Deane, and she's back with us. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Steve?
I'm good. Interesting topic we have to dig into. Before we do that, though, the disclaimer.
Thank you. The information presented on the podcast is educational in nature and is provided only as general information and is not medical or psychological advice, nor is it a substitute for seeking licensed healthcare services, and I've never meant that more.
Yes. And you know, we're in a fine line here with what somebody could be experiencing. And is it a mental situation, or are they just experiencing what they believe to be a presence, a spirit, an angel, a guide? How do you know the difference?
Now, that is the question, and not something that I can actually answer, because mediumship is something people experience very differently from each other. So I would never say, well, if you are able to connect or feel, let's say physically feel energy around you, it may feel very different for you versus me, right, versus somebody else. I think there's that, what you were saying about that fine line is where people have concerns about being, quote, crazy, is experiencing things, thinking it might be from, let's say, the spiritual world, but not being sure. But part of why we question ourselves in that way is because what we're experiencing could also be explained by a mental health condition. So go ahead.
It's a fine line.
It is a fine line. Now, there are, quote, hallucinations that people can have, and that can be due to stress. And there's a long list of why. Sometimes people have medical side effects of hallucinations. You can be depressed to the point of having hallucinations, or it would be under the category of psychotic features. So experiencing things that aren't really there. Sometimes I wonder when I see somebody on the street responding to a person that I don't see, I wonder, do they just have no line? Is the line, sorry, what I'm getting is blurred. Is there a blurred line between like reality and connecting with the spiritual world and a mental health condition? Or maybe there are people whose brain creates these kinds of visualizations or physical sensations that are hallucinations. It's not somebody in spirit coming through. It's not an energy. And I can't explain it better because I don't understand the brain science in a way that I could actually describe it. But I think that's part of why we're concerned about that. So those are any of your senses, like visual, physical sensation, even smell, certainly auditory. And I worked with, I've worked in the nonprofit world for a long time, and we had a lot of, not that it matters that it was nonprofit now that I say that, but anyway, working with children and families. And there were a lot of children, like 9-year-old children who saw, empath alert, like the face of a devil telling them to take their lives. I mean, it was hairy and scary. And there were times I didn't wonder when I heard something like that intense and negative. It never occurred to me, oh, that might be somebody in spirit, because it was just so negative. And my experience, and from what I've heard from other people, not that there are negative energies that would do things, but for the most part, I think when people are connected with somebody in spirit, it's positive, it's loving, it's caring, it's nurturing. So it's not that. But if you're experiencing something and you're not sure what it is and it's intense, it would be best to get evaluated by a medical professional or could be a psychiatrist or a medical doctor, or a therapist can help define what that is. But so there's a line there. I could see why. And I've had that experience too, where I've seen things out of context. We've talked about that a little bit here, where I was like, oh crap. Like, am I now having hallucinations? Versus that actually is the energy of a cat. I'm just seeing the silhouette of it, and it's something I don't normally see. And now I'm worried about myself. I have those. We want to stay connected with reality and not think, well, that would never be me who experiences, those kinds of symptoms.
Have you been concerned yourself personally in seeing something, sensing something, and like, did I just see that? Or is it me? And I'm wondering what's going on with me here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was at work, I don't know how many years ago. This was probably like 2012 or something. And I've been doing this kind of stuff for a long time, and not to this degree. So in my mind, there was a big separation between like work and spirituality and the rest of my life. And in my office, I would get this out of the corner of my eye, and it would be very fleeting, an outline of a cat or just different things, especially when it's something new. You get used to what you experience. Like if you are somebody who's like, able to divine parking spots, but then suddenly some new thing comes up where your radar goes off because somebody is within 20 feet of you. You'd be like, oh, that's weird. Because our senses grow, our intuition strengthens. But when it's a new thing, it's easier to be a little suspect about where it's coming from.
I know what you're saying when it comes to your intuition grows or kicks up, because I would have to say in the last, 4 months, 5, 6, I feel like my level of intuition has steadily been kicking up. And I'll even test it. Like I'll have a thought and go into a situation. And then, it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. That went just as I thought. But I have to say this, and I really want your feedback on it because I'm kind of wrestling with this at the moment. How do I know, or how does anybody know, that they're not just manifesting it, making it happen because they thought it, or they genuinely had intuition? I really think it is intuition, because these things I couldn't have manifested. Not even worth getting into. They are what they are. They present it as they are, and that's it. There's no way I could have made it go that way. You can, I believe, in some direction, but I often wonder: do you, that intuition? Are you manifesting it? What do you think?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that we are radars and we do pick up on things. I guess if you really worked at manifesting and creating something to happen, but I would think maybe the difference is there's a lot of time and effort between those two things. Like if you're picking up on something, you are a radar. We're all radars to varying degrees. But if you're trying to create something, it's funny because we have like one episode left after this episode, and I don't want that to end. So there was a part of me that actually had the thought, I wonder if I could create somehow recording being canceled today to like prolong us, to drag it out a little bit because they didn't want.
But or you flip that around, manifest it continuing. Somehow it could happen. Manifest it to continue. Yeah. You never know.
Fair enough. But I was sitting with the idea of, could I create, because I don't typically, I try to be mindful of how I use whatever energy I have, and not like I think I could I don't know what I could manifest in that way, but the thought had occurred to me. Anyway, just saying, I think it would take some real effort to manifest some of these things. And I think we should all take for granted that we are radars, that we can turn up and turn down how much we are tuned in by our sense of connection, how grounded we might be, how much noise is in our head that distracts us. But it's a great question to really, and I love that you test yourself. I was going to recommend that. There are lots of ways to do that. Do you want to share about how you tested yourself, or one of the ways?
Very basic ways. Meeting somebody, whether it's a personal situation, whether it's a business situation, and just thinking, not even based on information, but just a vibe of how it's going to go, who this person is going to be, whether it's going to support and serve my goals. And that's not self-serving. That's just, that's life.
Normal.
Why hang out with somebody that it doesn't work? And I would already feel it a certain way. And then I just said, yeah, just go. Let's see what it's going to be like. Yeah. Okay. And then it's like, that's exactly it. And I felt the intuition there. Like I'm very clear in what I receive more than ever. It's very, very odd. Really, I've tuned it up. And I've also gotten to the point where if it's not making sense in my best way to describe it, I'm not compromising myself anymore. I allow others, help others do this, do that, and I'm still there. But, I got to think of me more. And that's part of the intuition, like feeling, that's not feeling good. That's not, that's good. All right, we're going that way. But listening more. And I don't even know that it's listening more. It's listening to less of this, I believe, allows you to listen more to what's inside you.
Love that. And look, you've also been engaging weekly in conversations about your intuition. So you have been putting more attention on it.
Yeah.
Probably than you did before. And, just want to say, so let's say you're meeting somebody for a potential business opportunity or relationship, or even a romantic relationship.
Sure.
So you could feel somebody out and feel how the energy feels. But I would say the one caveat about that is that if there's something about the person or the situation that triggers something in you, like a memory of, oh, this person has curly hair, reminds me so much of my ex, never mind.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better word for those things, but if you're not clear, empty in the area of being triggered and you're just coming from a neutral place, I would think it would be very safe to trust what you're picking up on intuitively.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's like a filter that you need to put on. Mm-hmm. So you come from a space of empty slate.
Yes.
So there are not reasons why you're thinking this or that. Totally have it. And even my last relationship, which lasted a couple of years, my intuition told me this is the way it's going to be. And that's not the way I want it. That's not the way I'm going in my journey. It's okay here, years later, we're not going in the direction that I need to be going in at this point. But even in that person, I see reflections of my past in others. Just what you said.
Yeah. And, we do attract. So in therapy, we would call it reenactment. Mm-hmm. There would be a different way to look at it from a spiritual perspective. But a lot of these things all line up with each other, is that we come here with lessons to learn, and we are going to attract people and situations to help us work those lessons out, whether we like it or not. So we will attract a lot of the same types of things until we work through it. So even you saying how you're making yourself a priority, this sounds like, from other things that you've shared, this is like a whole new level for you. So you are going to attract different people and situations because you've resolved something. Now you might attract somebody like one of your old types of people as maybe a test or a reminder of the progress that you've made. Mm-hmm.
The difference is, it now. And I 100% agree with you. And that's like one of the biggest life lessons that you're talking about here. Once you've figured it out and you can see it and process it. And by the way, this situation ended and it's all good, but things came up for me at the same time, even health related, like I need to pay more attention to this. I need to take care of that. And it's almost as if that came up as that went away, allowing me to focus more. And at the same time, almost very odd or not, because
you're listening better. You're listening better to that inner knowing that's telling you what to do, what not to do, what serves you, what doesn't serve you. So you are, and I'm feeling emotion come in right now about this. I'm feeling it related to your mom. I could just really feel her intensity, in a good way. And thank you. She's saying that she's talking about, sometimes they talk directly, sometimes they talk to me, and then I relay it. How she's saying it is he loves himself better now.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. As we all should.
Yes. Yes.
As we all should. You could, give somebody the assignment of you go home, look in the mirror, nobody has to be around, and say, I love you to yourself. I've talked to a lot of people and they can't do it. Some have told me they've cried because we don't know how to do it. And it almost feels awkward. And it's the simplest thing in the world. But we don't know how to love ourselves.
Yeah.
And I know it's a cliche, but unless you nail that, you really can't show love for others.
Yeah, you may be doing it from a place that feels broken inside of you, like being a people pleaser.
Sure.
As an example, I'm in recovery of people pleasing.
Yeah.
And when you don't love yourself and you want other people to love or validate you so that you can feel worthy or whatever it is, you're coming from a place that's off balance. And so working on having more value to yourself, your essence, even your body. I do try to remember to thank my body for carrying me through another day. Before I fall asleep, I try to thank my spiritual team. And I have also been trying to work on that idea of loving myself more, like, even like thinking about my feet or my knees and, thanking them and loving them for carrying me all these miles, all these years, things like that.
It's interesting too, when you start doing that kind of work. I think we digressed here, but it's okay.
It's all good.
Once you start doing that, people around you act differently. And I honestly, I'll share it today. I went to a doctor's appointment. Nothing major, but some little bit of concern here. All good. But I was just chill, relaxed. Like 5 years ago, I'd be like, oh, my God, whatever. Okay, cool. I think my energy was positive, and people in that office, and I know this sounds weird, like gravitated. Like I talked to one person, another one came in, almost as if they wanted to hang out and talk about stuff. Doctor talked, we had a good talk and everything. Thanked him, he left. He came back in again, just wanted to, and it's, I almost think that it's, people are picking up on a different energy from me because I'm putting that out there, because I'm in a different place than maybe I was, 4 years ago, 5, whatever.
Totally get. And who doesn't want to be around somebody whose energy is grounded and that they're balanced and they feel good within themselves? I mean, what a beautiful way to bring in positive energy, to exude positive energy to other people when you're like happy with yourself or content within yourself.
I want to ask you, go back to where we started here, and everything is great. This is like important insight, just life in general. I believe in the past you've said that, now when we talk about seeing things, feeling things, that you've sensed a blur, like you could turn your head and you thought you saw something. I don't think I've ever done that. I've never felt that, never experienced that. But you have?
Oh, yeah. And I don't know what it is. As much as I might sound tuned in, because in certain ways I am, and under certain circumstances I am, but there's a whole universe of stuff I'm not connected with or not in tuned with. So things that are unexpected and kind of surprising happen to me too. It could be a different kind of energy that shows up. A lot of things are kind of, I don't want to say unknown. They're not jarring to me. If I felt something really negative, like made me nervous or scared or uncomfortable, that would be jarring to me. But just something that I can't identify or haven't identified yet. So you may not get it visually, and you might next week, because it's all ever changing and evolving. There's, the more we're paying attention to, just like with everything, the more focus we put on it, energy we put into it, it grows. And my intuition changes and expands often. It's really cool. It always keeps it interesting.
And that's an interesting thought too, that if you think you saw something, felt something, don't just write it off at that moment. There's nothing. If you just keep it on the, call it a Post-it note on your mind, and it's back there, it may present itself and may make sense later on. That's what I'm getting from you.
Definitely. And and think about it this way. So you mentioned, no, you haven't described the kinds of signs you get from your mom, but you ask for signs. This, I think, would be helpful for anybody who asks for signs, because a lot of times it would be something visual, like outside of ourselves, like, please show me 3 owls this week, and I'll know that you're here, or that's your suggestion for my life situation right now. So 3 owls, thank you. And maybe there aren't 3 owls that fly up in your face, but your attention, I'm getting big chills on this, your attention is being drawn somewhere. Like suddenly you just feel to look left or look right, and you're not sure why. And then you see the owl. Sometimes I have a sense to turn and I'm not seeing anything, but it felt like something was there. It's kind of that same thing. I don't know where the lines are, and maybe there are no lines about what is or isn't actually happening, or I'm just being shown to notice more, or this is how we pick things up, is we're listening. We're trying to be attuned, like out in nature. You notice, you suddenly turn and there's a bird with, blue feathers, and you were asking for a bird with blue feathers, or it's just a meaningful thing to you. When my cat passed, he told my friends, we were in a circle, like a mediumship circle, and he told my friends that would be his sign, is blue feathers, which I get a lot of feathers, but not often blue ones. And then actually, when I was preparing for our very first episode, I sat in the park right by my house. I sat on this rock, and it was one of the few times I saw a blue bird. And there aren't really blue birds where I am. Wow. It was really cool to see that. But probably my eyes were closed, and then I just felt the sense to open my eyes and look right in front of me, and there was the blue bird. So I think these are the same, it's like the same type of experience.
It's your intuition telling you to look at that time.
Yes.
And, the final thought here, I don't get specific in asking for signs. I just say, show me something. Show me it's going to be okay. Give me some kind of sign. And to your point of your intuition telling you to look, I don't know if I shared this, but the very first time I got a sign from my mom, I was heading to an appointment. It was, could be very impactful, life-changing. I vibed her the night before, and this is a few years ago, vibed her, that morning, pull into the parking lot, it's like 9:22, and I look down in my console, and I see my energy drink, my protein drink, and the expiration date was her birthday. And that was the very first specific sign I got. And I was asking, send me something, man. Make me feel better about this whole situation. It turned out fabulous. But I had the intuition to look down. Who looks down at the expiration date in a drink in your console? I got enough stuff I'm thinking about at that moment. And my friend said to me, he's like, about the sign. He's like, yeah, right. 1 in 365 chance. Yeah, right. But then he says, yeah, I agree with you. But then he says, what are the chances that you'd actually look at that moment? And I believe that's in line with what you're saying right now. Something told me to look. Otherwise, I would have missed it, and I would have missed the comfort that it gave me at that moment. And that was the beginning of opening my eyes to those signs that I get from my mom. And what I shared, they are just as, if not more specific, like that. And I was doing it this morning at the doctor's appointment. I'm not going to lie. Just like, throw me. You know what? I didn't see anything. Maybe I will later. It probably was in front of me. And I was focused on other things. In fact, I'm convinced.
And she's around. I mean, she comes around, she's come through a few times when we've been speaking.
Sure.
Only because she knows that it'll make it really obvious to you that she's around. And I'm getting chills even just saying that all down my legs. So when I was preparing for today, I did ask if somebody wanted to contribute to what we're going to talk about. And my sister and grandmother came in, and the song they gave was Michael Jackson's You Are Not Alone. And they wanted everybody to remember, and I can feel emotion about this, remember that we're not alone. You're not the one person that didn't get assigned a spiritual team, or you're not the one relative that everybody forgot about. Whether or not you feel the presence of the people that love you and that you love around you, that's a different question than are they here or not. And it's your knowing, your intuition, it's yours. And whether or not you choose to share that, whether or not you choose to listen and honor it, that's your choice. But everybody has it. Everybody has it. And you can always grow it. And there are podcasts and books and talking to people who do this, talking to people who are just normal people who are in tune with their intuition. All those things can really help. Or you can even consult with a professional like myself or another medium to help you understand what you're experiencing as well.
Thank you for saying that. We're not alone. We have no idea what's behind us. The spirit team, if you will. Yeah, I know this is woo-woo. I gotcha. But when you start feeling it, sensing it, believing it, and knowing that this thing called the universe and whatever energy is around, it doesn't want the worst for you. Why the hell are we here? It wants the best for you. And yeah, we take some detours in getting there, but we're here to learn, to teach. I learned from you.
Well, I learned stuff from you too. And as my grandfather has said, it's all for our growth. It's all for our development, in a conversation I had with him. And it really is. So we may not feel like we have a compass, but we do.
Oh, we do. And if you feel that you've lost your direction, ask for a sign. Yeah.
Ask for a sign.
Connectingwithnoelle.com is your website, right?
Yes. Noelle.
Thank you.
Thanks. And if you want to email, connectingwithnoelle@gmail.com. If there's something I can do to support you, please let me know. If you just have a question, reach out. Would love to help anybody, empower anybody to be more connected with their sense of connection with the universe for your own gratification.
Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful thing. Once you feel it, once you figure it out. And I'm the most skeptical man on the planet. Yeah, I get it. Like if somebody's like, what are they talking about? No, I get it. But once you start seeing those signs, expiration date on a protein drink, and that was the first of many like that.
Yeah.
So I'm a believer. I'll go. I'll take it to the ground.
And you ask, and it gets delivered, and you take it in. That's the thing. If you still were a doubter, I'm sure at some point your mom would be like, "Dude,
I can't do anymore." I just drove a truck past you, and there was a word that you should know about. And then, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. This was great.
We'll be right back.
Okay. Take care.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.